Hello, and welcome to Mental Health Matters. I'm your host, Liz Lang. Each week on this podcast, we will break down various aspects of mental health. We are so excited you're here and hope you enjoy this week's episode. Hey guys, Liz Lang here with Jeremiah and Selina Woodruff from Core Connection. And this week we are going to get into part 2 of relationships with adult children. And before we do that, Selina has this week's parenting moment.
Yeah, so we have our youngest, her birthday is coming up, and she has a lot of wishes for her birthday, I'll call them. And so one of them is that she wants to go out to dinner the night of her birthday, which is great. That's fantastic. So I wanted to include all of my children. We have 3 adult children, and I wanted to include all of them in this. I like to invite everybody to everything and make sure everybody's included. But I came to this awkward conclusion that I wanted to invite them, but I could not pay for all of them to go to dinner. So then I was sitting on this, like, do I not invite them? Do I invite them? Do I invite them and just assume they know they're paying? And then I even went to ChatGPT and asked, how do you tell someone they're invited but that they're paying? And it gave me lots of options of like professional or quirky. And then I just decided, okay, this is when I just tell them like, hey, this is awkward. You're invited, but you have to pay. So I just think sometimes there's situations that you just tell the truth. Like, this is awkward. I don't know how to say this when it comes to your children. And it's probably more helpful because I sent them a text about it. And then we actually got together yesterday on another birthday wish for her. And I laughed to them about it. And they actually just laughed and was like, Mom, if you invite us, we're not like just assuming you're paying. We already know like we're paying for ourselves. Like, you're making a bigger deal about this. So I think sometimes just being open and telling them how awkward it is helps the situation.
Yeah, telling them that you feel awkward. And man, that feels so relatable. I mean, because especially, and it fits in perfectly with this week's topic. Because like for so long you have paid for everything, there was that expectation. And I feel like oftentimes too, with parents, maybe they are more well-to-do, right? Or oftentimes once their children are grown and married. And so sometimes parents just get into the habit of just continuing to pay for things for their kids. But I think it's perfectly reasonable and okay to say, no, I need you to pay for yourself this time, right? Or whatever it looks like. So I love that you set that boundary and that you guys have a good enough relationship and a good enough connection that you could laugh about it, that they're not like, well, that's rude, or, well, why aren't you going to pay for me? Right. So it sounds like you guys have this really good connection with your adult children and you've been able to set good boundaries and expectations.
I did appreciate that they were like, yeah, if you invited us, that's what we would think. I was like, okay, good to know. Good to know we have that boundary already set. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And again, that fits in so perfectly with this week's topic. So, how to stay connected without overstepping. And when we did part 1 of this episode, we focused almost completely on launching. And launching, as we mentioned, was that interesting dynamic of, yeah, they're an adult. They're still largely dependent on mom and dad. What does that look like? So we wanted to shift modes here to now your adult children are completely independent, living on their own. Maybe they've graduated college, they've established themselves. Maybe they've gotten married. And that creates a different dynamic. And so we thought it would be good to step into, or to discuss how to step into this role of, you're now more of a peer than you are a mentor. And that's not to say that you can't still be there for your kids and still help them and give them help. I mean, I'm 33 years old and I still call my parents for help. Like, I've still called and said, hey, Dad, how do I move a piano? Like,
awesome.
And part of it is because like that's what my dad does, and he's in the moving world, and he has experience. And so I'm like, Dad, what would you do? Like, what do we do for this? And parents are a fantastic resource, and I love having my parents in a part of my adult life, but it can be tricky to establish it. So this is something I know you guys have done now a couple of times. Tell me how this has gone for you guys.
It's hard.
There's lots of learning.
There is lots of learning. It's really not that hard, but it is challenging parenting adult children because we don't want to overstep our bounds. We want them to be independent. We want them to have their needs met, and we also want to be there and help and support and sustain them. And so I think that, and Selina's done a great job with this, but communication is such a big key in helping us to understand what they're looking for and helping them to not feel like we're being intrusive. As we have 2 married children and they have children of their own. And so there's a lot of communication that happens, and each child is different and they're unique. So our relationship with our oldest is different than our second oldest. And neither one's bad and one's not better than the other. They're just different. And we allow them to have their boundaries and their space. And we're always there for them. I mean, they were both over for dinner last night, and both of them needed help with cars before they left. They were having some little minor issues, and I'm happy to step in as dad and help with those things. And I'm also willing to step back and let their husbands, who weren't there for various reasons, I think they were both at work, but allowing their husbands to fill their role as the dad in their family.
Yep.
So I don't know what Selina thinks, and she'll jump on here in a second and share with us what she thinks. But for me, I think the big piece has been communication and understanding what the boundaries are and allowing people to be independent and still have confidence that, hey, we're here for you as needed. Because while you're right, Liz, they do become more like peers, but they're still our children. They'll always be my little babies. And so I'm always there for them. And I expect them to be grown-up, responsible adults that I taught them to be. And they are, and they're wonderful.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think it's just knowing each kid individually and, like, again, the communication and talking or saying that awkward. This is awkward. What do you need? Let's have this conversation. But each kid and what they need and what it looks like for them. And then really checking the story you have for them or for your family as a whole, and being okay to be flexible of what that looks like according to like what each family needs and what their goals and desires are too. Because I think sometimes, and maybe that's just me as the mom, I have this expectation, especially as they're growing up, of what our family looked like and what we would do once they all leave. And I've had to adjust that story. I've been so blessed to have them live close to us. There was a time they weren't all close to us. And, that was hard. And I adjusted, and you adjust to what that looks like at that point too. But yeah, I think just each one individually, what their needs are, and just saying, hey, what does it look like for you? How can I support you? What do you need?
So one of the things that you've said many times, Selina, is before offering advice, ask, would you like my advice, or do you just need me to listen? I think that is especially important with adult children because, I think sometimes they just need to vent about something. And, maybe it's conflict with the sibling or, just a conflict at work or something big is going on in their life. And they just need somebody to listen to them and to just kind of be on their side and to validate them and just to get it out. And so stepping into that role of just validator of, wow, I'm sorry you're going through that, or that sounds really tough, or, oh, that sucks, or man, that's ridiculous. I can't believe your boss treated you like that. Rather than, well, you should do this, this, and this, and this. Just be like, oh, that's so crappy that your coworker did this to you. I think that can be really important for adult children.
Yeah, definitely making that shift to not trying to fix everything for them.
Yep.
I think we've talked about that even with teenagers, right? That we don't need to fix everything for them, but taking that shift of listening and not just wanting to give them all of our knowledge and opinions and advice, but like this is an opportunity for them to learn and grow. And just really, like, I literally have to tell myself, even after phone calls, this is not your problem to solve. Because I just want to fix it, and I want to make it better and fix it for them. But there's often times that it's theirs to fix, and theirs to go through that experience to get the wisdom and the knowledge and the experience that they need. Like, I just think all the time, like, I'm as awesome as I am because I had those experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? But I have to tell myself that when it comes to my kids, like, if I want them to be as awesome as I am, they need to be able to have these lows and these highs and work through and have those experiences so that they can gain that experience and knowledge.
Along with that, Selena, is I think we have to realize that this process starts long before they move out and get married. Mm-hmm. It starts when they're teenagers and learning independence and learning how to communicate. And it's just something that has to happen. We want our kids to be independent. We want them to be strong. We don't want them dependent on us for the rest of their lives. But as we start that process and we start to shift that relationship from, like, I'm the dad and you're going to do what I say, or I'm the mom mm-hmm. and you're going to do the things I ask, but moving it more to a mentor place where, like, hey, how do I support you? How do I sustain you? And it becomes more natural when they do move out and they're on their own or they get married. We keep working in that role of mentor and support and love. And then it's really important for us to respect the decisions they make, especially when they were looking for advice and we give advice and they don't follow it. We have to respect their independence and their autonomy and allow them to make those decisions and then support them. And sometimes that just means communicating with them, like, hey, here's what I think, but you got to do what's best for you. And whatever that looks like, I'm here for you. Mm-hmm. Whatever decision you got to make, I'm behind you on it, as long as it's not immoral and wrong and all those things. But, you know, if it's, should I take this job or that job? Well, there's not necessarily a bad choice here. So maybe I think you should take one job and they decide to take a different one. Well, I'm still there for you. I still support you, and I'm not going to come back later. And this is really important, but we're not coming back later and saying, well, I told you you should have taken this job. And no, but like, hey, yeah, I get it. I'm sorry. And things are tough. And how do we support you moving forward now? What can we do for you to help? Because we want to be a team. We want to be there for you. We want to help.
Yeah. And I think one of the trickier things too is when you've added to the family via marriage, which is usually really, really exciting. And you know, maybe you agreed or disagreed with this marital decision, but again, it's not your life and you don't get to make that decision. It's not like they're 16 or 17 and you can put your foot down and say, no, you can't date this person.
Well, I don't know if you even can do that when they're 16 or 17 very well either. We think we can, but it's pretty hard.
This is true. But, you know, you've lost all authority in this arena. So, you know, once they do get married, and, you know, it is so important to be respectful of this fact that they are creating a new family unit, right? And so it is so important to be respectful of their spouse. You know, this new relationship has to be the main priority. Their family has to come first, right? So, and that doesn't mean you're not still involved in their lives. Okay. So one of my favorite sayings is parents very much belong in their children's lives. They do not belong in their marriage. And so I think that's a really important boundary to establish. And it was actually advice that Curtis and I were given right before we got married of don't say negative things to your parents about your spouse. It
will be problematic for you.
Yes, it will create problems. And, you know, so yeah, like I'm a very big proponent of letting your parents be in your lives, like, you know, regular dinners if you live close and regular phone calls and yeah, hey, we're dealing with this. And again, this is going to look different for every person. And I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are is if your kid calls you and say, oh, I'm having this big fight. What do I do? I'm having this big fight with my spouse. I wouldn't recommend any couple doing that. So what would your guys' response be to that?
Yeah, when you were saying that, I was thinking, that's really great advice to children. But what if they do call you and they want to vent about their spouse and they do want to say things about their spouse? So, man, you got to stay real neutral because then the mama bear comes out and the judgments and the wanting to fix it and wanting to protect them, right? I think you could say, hey, I'm here for you, but I also love your spouse and I want to have that relationship with them. So I don't but this is hard for me. I don't want to have judgments. I don't want to have protect you. So understand that if you tell me something, I might come back with a protective comment. So, I mean, I think you could just kind of make that choice on your own if you feel like you can handle listening in a neutral, like, I'm just here to listen. I'm not here to judge or here to give opinions, but you'd really have to like let that go after the conversation, right?
Yep.
And not allow that to form your opinions and judgments about their spouse. So I don't know. I guess you'd have to decide which way you could handle it. If you can't handle it, I would suggest you would just say something like, hey, in our family, we're going to keep marriage relationships. You're going to have to find somebody else to vent to because I'm not able to handle that without making a judgment or changing my opinion about things.
And that's a great boundary to set.
I think it varies too, because our kids need to, even our adult children need to know that if there's something going on, they can talk to us, right?
Yeah.
So setting that boundary, we got to be cautious there, because if there's some sort of abuse going on, we absolutely want them talking to us about it.
Yes.
And we're absolutely going to form judgments. And I get that. But I think for me, one of the things that I have to do is go a little bit deeper with it, because I do like that boundary if you can't handle it. But I like to go a little bit deeper, and as I give advice and comments back, what is the purpose of my advice and comments? Am I trying to help improve this marriage and stabilize it? Or are my comments and words going to cause further divide in that marriage? Because at the end of the day, what we want is our kids to be happy. We want them to have joyful, healthy, happy relationships. And, you know, as a dad, I'm going to tell you right now, for me, nobody's ever going to be good enough for my kids. I don't care who you are. You're not good enough.
Yep.
And I have two amazing son-in-laws who I love and who love their wives and their children and respect them. And I deeply value that. And so I want nothing more for them other than to have a healthy, beautiful, wonderful relationship with their spouse. And so, like, for me, they can share it with me, and I would be fine with it and be able to stay neutral and be able to, you know, help direct them how to improve or correct whatever's going on in their relationship. But I do really think that in general, the boundary should be, we don't bring mom and dad into our relationship, my mom and dad or your mom and dad, because it does create so much complication and struggle within the relationship. And so we just need to respect that. And of course, like I've already said, the exception to that is in the case of abuse and things of that nature. We're going to bring more in, or there might be some other underlying circumstances with health or something going on that we need to get involved with. But again, we're playing this role of supporting and sustaining them, you know, and even if there is maybe there's some verbal abuse going on, the real question to the child of ours is, what direction do you want to go with this, and how do I help you get there? And we just support and sustain that way. And man, it's a tough line, and it's hard to just sit here and say this is always how I would respond. And I just don't think that it's that black and white so often.
Oh, yeah, sure. I totally get that. And I especially appreciate what you said about, you know, sometimes parents maybe do need to take an active role. I think about my second daughter. When I was pregnant with her, I had a lot of complications throughout the pregnancy. And so twice, my mom flew out to help take care of me and to help out with our oldest at the time. And I really appreciated that extra parental support. I really appreciated her basically coming back and stepping into a mom role again. And that's what is so important about families, and why, you know, I believe, and we all believe, that families of origin and just families in general, they really are so important, and they are such a huge blessing in our lives. You know, Curtis and I have been married for almost 14 years now, and we absolutely love spending time with our respective parents and being involved in their lives. And we love the extra help that we can get and the extra support that they have lended to us through the years. But a key component of that is they have respected our adult boundaries. And I know for a fact that Curtis and I have made decisions that my dad didn't agree with. And I know that because I know my dad. But it's not like he was sitting here saying, this is a bad idea, don't do this. He expressed and he voiced his concern, but he never, like you mentioned, Jeremiah, came back with it, well, I told you this was a bad idea, or, well, yeah, maybe you probably shouldn't have done that. And so, again, it's this key component of, if you want to be involved in your children's lives when they become adults, you have to respect their autonomy and respect the boundaries. That can maybe get tricky when you introduce kids because they're going to parent differently than you did, and maybe you don't agree. So maybe that's another good topic to talk about is difference in parenting styles. And you're like, well, that's not how I raised you. Why are you doing it that way? That can be tough. Now, obviously, I'm just going to throw in the big caveat. If your child is abusing or neglecting their own children, right? So if you have a grandchild being abused or neglected, that's an obvious, you got to step in, you got to say something, you got to do something. But barring that, navigating that my child is parenting their children way differently than I did.
They are going to parent differently. That's just the reality. And hopefully they're doing better than you did. That's always my hope for my kids. I want them all to do better than me. And we're going to get right back to some of those initial conversations we had at the beginning of this podcast. Do you want advice or do you want me to listen? Do you want advice or am I just here to support? Sometimes our kids are going to come to us with a desire for advice on how to parent.
Yeah. And
other times they're going to say, no, this is how I'm doing it. And I expect you to support me. And we support them and we do things the way they want it done. Mm-hmm. And I know for me, I just look back at like, well, how would I want my parents or my in-laws to respond in this kind of situation? And I just try and kind of follow that golden rule of like, well, this is how I would want somebody to respond. So that's what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, and all of your kids parent their kids different too.
Yep.
So trying to learn and respect each family's different rules or ideas or how they want to do things. Just, again, having conversations. Hey, I want to give your kid candy when they come over. Is that okay with you? Would you rather them not? Do you want me to ask you first? You have one kid that's like, oh, if Grammy says yes, then you can have it. And another kid's like, no, they cannot have candy when they come to your house. Yep. Right. And so and not like coming back with, oh, I can't give you candy or making comments to make them feel bad because your expectation is when they come to Grammy's house, they get whatever they want. So trying to just be respectful of them and their ideas and what they want. And I guess maybe blending that with like, hey, this is important to me. Or like, I even think like Christmas time, right? Okay, for your family, do you guys like gifts that all the kids have and like all this stuff? Or do you want like an experience that you guys can all go do? And so, some kids like, hey, you can get my kids stuff whenever you want, but just know that I'm going to throw it away when I'm done with it.
Yep.
And being okay with it, right? Like, okay, that's great. Cause I love to give them little junky things when I see them, right? Little whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay that when they're done with it, they can throw it away and not having the expectation that they need to hang on to that stuff. So just working out like those different expectations and blending that with like what you want to do, I think, and just having those conversations.
Along with that, kind of jumping back a little bit to the way we help with parenting. If we think about it back in terms of mom and dad needing to be on the same page of parenting, right? Because if I disagree with maybe a rule that we've set in the home, I'm not going to do that in front of children. I'm going to do that behind closed doors, right? That way we're a united front with the children and we're united in the expectations. And we should mirror that with our own children when we're helping with grandchildren. We should be mirroring what their parents are doing. And they should never know if we disagree with it. And it could be such a beautiful thing because it really can help in the home with parenting the children. Because even grandma and grandpa do the same thing. Oh, well, this is what's expected then. And so that's what I'm going to do.
Okay, let's take a quick break and we will be right back.
It's 2 a.m. and you're doom scrolling, wondering if anyone else feels this broken. Spoiler, they do, and they're on Recovery Cast. Every episode brings you into honest conversations about mental health and addiction recovery with people who've been in the trenches. We talk about rock bottom, tiny wins, and everything in between. And somehow it's not depressing. Recovery Cast, where recovery meets reality. That's Recovery Cast, wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, I'm just literally asking those questions. Hey, when the kids spend the night, do you want them to go to bed at 8 like they're used to, or can they stay up till 10 and watch a movie?
Mm-hmm.
Then they have the opportunity to say, I want them to go to bed at 8 o'clock. You need to put them to bed, right?
Yep.
So just, I don't know, just to me, like asking those questions and maybe letting go of some of your expectations of things that you want or think it should be the way you want it to be. But also if there's things that you want, also like, hey, we really wanted to stay up and watch a movie all together. Can we have the kids stay up and watch a movie all together, right? And I just feel like in my experience, when that respect is there and I feel like they have a say as to what's going on and they don't feel like they're trying to please me or make me happy, or am I going to get mad if they say no, then over time I feel like that trust is there, that they feel like they could say, oh no, that's not what we want this time or something. But then I feel like in return, they're respectful to me of like, okay, we don't usually let them stay up, but yeah, that's fine. They can stay up when they're with you.
Yeah. Again, I think it just comes back to that mutual respect. And I really, I appreciate this idea of not throwing your adult child under the bus to their own kids. Nope, we can't. This was something you kind of touched on, Selena, of no, we can't do that because mom said no. Well, I mean, you are also an authority figure, so don't throw their parent under the bus and make their parent out to be the bad guy, because as Jeremiah said, it's way better just to be a team and to be a cohesive unit, right? I think that just is going to help facilitate that mutual respect and that relationship.
And it's going to be hard because your kids are going to do parenting things that you're like, that's stupid. Why would you do that? And it's frustrating sometimes. And you're probably going to make some mistakes along the way. But so much, I mean, everything in relationships really seems to come back to communication, right? And if we have made a mistake, we can admit to that and share that with our children. Hey, I messed up. I know you wanted them to go to bed at 8:30 and I didn't do it. I didn't make them go to bed. We were having so much fun. I decided we were staying up. I'm sorry. I'm going to try and do better. And owning our mistakes and owning who we are and what we are will go a long ways in continuing to build that relationship with our adult children.
Well, okay. And then on the flip side too, maybe that even like you can set that expectation to your kids. Hey, I'd love to have your kids come over. When they come over, we're going to have ice cream and candy and cake and donut. No, but just tell them the expectation. Like, hey, this is what we're doing. We're staying up. Is that okay? We'd love to have them. That's what we're doing. That's the expectation. So they know what the expectation is and what's going to be happening with their kid.
And then they have the opportunity to counter it, right? Be like, yeah, I'd love to have them come over, but not comfortable with them staying up, till 1 a.m. watching movies.
Right.
Okay. Well, where's the balance then? What are we okay with? And so I love this topic. I think it's important. And I'm sure my adult children listen to these episodes and probably sit there half the time and say, yeah, right, Dad, like you would do that, because it's tough. And I know I don't do it perfectly. I totally am aware of that. The things that I'm sharing are the things that I work towards and that I know are important and valuable. And I hope to be perfect at someday, just not there yet.
And I think, offering grace here is going to be really helpful for any maybe adults who are, or for maybe any adults who are, trying to newly navigate this of how do I keep my parents involved in my life? I think giving grace and forgiveness is going to be critical here. And then, maybe even considering what is the intent here. And I think because for me, I know intent really, really matters. And so when somebody makes a mistake, then like when I make a mistake, I personally hope that somebody will consider my intent. What was I trying to do? What was I trying to say? Rather than just, you screwed up. I can't believe you did that. And so, and that goes both ways. So just offering each other grace. And again, like we've said, that open communication. Okay, so real quick before we wrap up, I want to hit on holidays because I feel like that can be a really big one, especially with, traditions that we might have of all our kids come home for Christmas or for Thanksgiving or whatever the holiday is. Well, now you've got two families with different traditions. And so I would just offer parents caution of, setting that expectation of you're coming to me for Christmas, right? That's not fair. And I've heard lots of different ways that you can do this. Like oftentimes people will alternate which holiday they go to, or, maybe you're like my family, my created family, me and Curtis, we do our big dinner on Christmas Eve. I've always thought that makes more sense because it is awful to wake up at an unholy hour to open presents and then you spend all day cooking exhausted. No, we're doing it on Christmas Eve. We're having the big dinner on Christmas Eve. And so, just again, I think just being flexible with traditions and then also giving your kids space to create new family traditions and traditions with their own family. If having Christmas morning as, just their family unit is important to them, let them. You can still have time to be grandparents, and do all the grandparent things, but let your kids form their own traditions and also be open to their spouse's family's traditions.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned we have two different families. I would argue we have three now because we have the, my parents and your parents and then us. And finding that balance is an important thing. And there's going to probably come a time where they want to do Christmas and certain holidays or whatever holidays you celebrate in their own home, in their own way. Maybe they don't come and visit any grandparents, and maybe you get invited to come and participate in theirs. And again, if you get invited, now we're respecting their traditions, right? And playing a role in their traditions. And so that's a delicate balance. I remember going through that for us and finding that time where we finally had to say, we love being at our parents' home for the holidays, but our children want to be in their home for the holidays. And so how do we find that balance in being there when we can and not when we can't? And it took some work and some effort. And I feel like our parents were pretty understanding about all of it. They always want you there. That's just the reality, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so that's a great problem to have, that if they want you to be there, and they'll have to respect it. We've got to respect those things as we come across them.
Yeah.
I think it's ever changing too. I think even for us, it just is always changing and what that is. And so as a parent, if there's something that's important to you, then you communicate that. Hey, this is what I would like to do. But then also having to be okay that it might not be as important to your kids, or it might not be possible, or whatever. There's so many different situations and reasons. And so not putting that pressure and not making them feel bad because they can't or whatever. But so I don't know, having an expectation, but also be understanding and flexible about what that expectation or what's important to you. Because I think you need to be careful. It's not always just like, oh, whatever you want, or what can I do for you, or how do I, like, you can have things that are important to you and just communicate what's important to you and what that looks like. But then also on the flip side of the kids, like, being understanding of their traditions. Like, when you're saying that, I'm listening to you thinking, I have a lot of kids. So I have one kid that thinks that Christmas Eve is when it is, but then I have another kid that's like, no, Christmas is when it is. And then another kid that's like, we don't do anything. Like, having to like combine all of that, right? What does that look like?
It's
so just so just, I don't know, I guess just decide what isn't. If there's something that's important to you, communicate that and be flexible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that could especially apply with, maybe like around a big holiday meal. It is perfectly reasonable to set the expectation of, I really want you guys here, but I expect you to contribute X amount. Like, I expect you to help out with it, right? I mean, so yeah, I think it is important to, again, just establish boundaries and expectations, and not just, I want them here so things can just go however they want, so they'll come. No, your space, your feelings, your expectations, they matter too. And so there is a balance there. Okay, final thoughts.
It's tough. It's tough to have adult children. It's tough to have young children. There's challenges there. Be patient with yourself and with the process, and use your communication skills and work through these challenges and struggles. And the goal here and the idea is that our adult children are building healthy, independent, happy lives with their families, their children, their spouses. And how do we support them in that? And that's really the big thing for me, I think, when it comes to having adult children. How do we support them in their goals and their dreams? What can we do to stand behind them and encourage them to reach what they want, not what we want?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, connection is our goal. And so what are your intentions when you reach out or communicate or set things up? What is your intentions? What is your expectations? And communicate that, and really keep in check your story that you have for your family and what it should look like. But again, what Jeremiah said, supporting them in their family, and working on continuing having that connection with them so you can be a part of their life.
Yeah, and expect conflict. It's going to happen. Expect there to be bumps. You're all trying to learn how to navigate new roles, and it's okay if you don't get it right. It's okay if, we accidentally hurt feelings or we make a mistake. I think if you just plan for it and then you practice good conflict resolution, or you just work on repair, you'll be able to pull through it.
Yep.
Okay, so next week we are going to get into blending families, and we will see you all then. Have a question? How about a topic you'd like us to cover? Send us an email at mentalhealthpod21@gmail.com.